Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. Today is the FA Cup final preview, and today I'm joined by Jack Clemson, podcast regular, and William Bryant, podcast regular also. And today we are joined by a new person on the podcast, Sean Dowley. He is a Chelsea fan. Lads, how's it going today? How are you feeling about the weekend?
Nervous, a little bit, I must say. I don't know. It's a hard one to call.
Yeah, it's weird being a Chelsea fan and like not being an underdog in like kind of like final. I feel like Chelsea are stronger than Arsenal, but like the last time we played Arsenal in the 2017 Cup final, I was confident as well. But obviously we got beaten in that. Arsenal showed up, so I'm kind of nervous that the same might happen tomorrow.
And William, how are you feeling about the final coming up?
I'm excited now. I've been watching a lot of all the football going on and all the different talk shows beforehand, like AFTV's ones between the Arsenal and Chelsea fans, just to get me excited. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to the day.
Lads, kind of with regards to the FA Cup final, now obviously talking about underdog stories, Arsenal and Chelsea were the underdogs coming into the semi-finals. Like, you had Arsenal, who came up against Manchester City, and let's all be honest, lads, no one gave Arsenal a chance. Well, I definitely didn't anyway. I didn't think they'd had a chance, especially with their most recent results against City. And then obviously you had Chelsea coming up against the United team, who were 19 unbeaten as well. At that time, like, both of them weren't fancied at all. Like, in terms of like, how do you feel like about the semi-final that happened? Like, yeah, are you shocked that you're here at the final? William, I was going to come to you first with regards to
that. Personally, I feel I was a little bit shocked about how we performed so well against Man City. But I feel like after watching the Liverpool match, which happened just before that, I knew we could do it. I just didn't think we would 2 games in a row. However, watching it, then we just totally shut out City, and it's been one of my proudest days as an Arsenal fan. I was nearly in tears watching that defensive performance because we've been so weak for so many years, and it just showed that we have it in us. And I feel like Arteta's doing a great job in terms of getting more defensive stability into the club, and it was a brilliant day.
And kind of in contrast then to the United semi-final, Jack, you obviously you came into the semi-final, and though both teams made changes, but you know, Chelsea seemed to put on a good performance that day. Now, albeit David De Gea did mess up for 2 of the goals. They're very questionable goalkeeping. But other than that, Chelsea were the boss team on the day. Like, how do you feel kind of that day, especially the fact that Ollie had 3 wins over Lampard before that game?
Yeah, well, as you said, we haven't exactly played very well when we've played you this year. So you always kind of have that. And the fact that United they've played well after the break. So, I wasn't 100% optimistic, but then at the same time, Chelsea, we always seem to, I don't know, when it counts in the games, in kind of semi-finals and finals, over the last few years, we've always kind of managed to pull it out of the bag. And I think it was a classic Chelsea performance. We were just the better team all over the pitch. I know De Gea made a couple of mistakes, but taking them out of the equation, I think we still would have beat you that day. Ollie come out and said he got the tactics wrong, but it's just one of them games. Everything kind of went right for us on the day, to be honest. So it is another final for us to play in over the last few years. It's very rare that we don't get one, to be honest, in the season.
And Sean, like, with regards to obviously your FA Cup run, Chelsea have kind of bled in a lot. You like said, Billy Gilmore, Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham. Like, how do you feel like Lampard's kind of done in this kind of cup run in terms of like managing his squad?
Yeah, I think it's great. Even like you said, Billy Gilmore threw him in against Liverpool, threw him in the deep end, man of the match performance straight away. Unfortunately, he's injured tomorrow, out for a few weeks after the end of the season. But I think Lampard's done great in this run. To knock out Liverpool and United along the way with bringing the youth players in has been great. And I feel more confident that like the youth players will come through in the final tomorrow, because I feel it means a lot more to Arsenal, because like the access to the Europa League and stuff. I know like it's the Europa League, whatever, but like revenue streams, and it gives them another point of access to try and get into the Champions League next year. They won't only be battling top 4, but like if they get into the Europa League, they can be fighting for Champions League in that way. So I was worried that it means a lot more to Arsenal, but now with a few young players with Chelsea, it's their first chance for a bit of silverware with Chelsea coming through and that, so they're going to be fired up to the last. So I'm actually very happy that there's a few young players that have been blooded through this year, and we have them hopefully, like, potentially to have their first piece of silverware with the Chelsea senior team.
And I'm just going to kind of allude to that. Obviously, you said Arsenal kind of probably have more to play for in this FA Cup final. I'd like to take a look back to the Europa League final last season. It was kind of the same situation. Chelsea finished third in the league, and they had qualification for the Champions League already wrapped up. Arsenal finished fifth narrowly, and they had a lot more to kind of play for than Chelsea did kind of on that day. Do you think this kind of has that kind of same feel to the game because of, like, you wrapped up top four and the fact that, you know, Arsenal need Europa League to kind of attract more players? Do you think maybe Chelsea mightn't be as motivated as maybe what they would be if they didn't have, like, European football?
Yeah, I feel it's so similar to last season. I was very surprised that with the way it went last year, like, Chelsea just completely dominated the Europa League final, handed it a trash. And I didn't think with Arsenal having so much to play for last year, I thought it'd be a lot closer, or I thought Arsenal might pip us in the final. And I felt the same way about the game tomorrow. Like, they've a lot more to play for and stuff. But just like last season, you don't know, like, what way it's going to go in the cup final. No matter who's fired up, who's not fired up, it's all on the day. Like, but like I said, I think with the young players coming through at Chelsea, that it'll make that like a little bit difference. That, like, I think they will be fired up and they will want to win it. It's more silverware, and it's first piece of silverware for a lot of the younger players. So I think they'll be a lot more fired up tomorrow than they even more for the Europa League final, and they handled it a trash and then. So yeah.
Jack, kind of with relation to this final, like, obviously you have Olivier Giroud at the moment, a former Arsenal player who's kind of hit the ground running again in the last kind of couple of months since we've kind of come out of lockdown and the Premier League's kind of returned. Do you think maybe he's going to be, you know, a very important player in your system tomorrow? Do you think he'll have an impact on the game?
I'm pretty confident it'll start. I think his form over the last few weeks has been just brilliant. I mean, he's got points for us on his own, so he has to start. Maybe there's that little bit of added motivation playing against your old team. This could be his final game for Chelsea. Who knows? He might be going in the summer, so there's that motivation as well. Just to go back to your point a little bit earlier about kind of teams being up for it, I don't get the sense that Arsenal are underdogs. I don't get the sense that I don't feel that we're favourites. Now, maybe, you know, we've had a much better season than Arsenal, but I wouldn't go into the game thinking this is ours in the bag. We should be winning this game, because Arsenal were not the easiest team to play. No, they've had games where they get turned over fairly easy, but so have we. But I think it's a really kind of close final, and it's so hard to call. Really, really is hard to call.
And William, I was going to come to you with this. Now, obviously, Arsenal probably on the betting stakes won't be favourites. But you've had big wins against Liverpool, you've had big wins against Manchester City lately, and you seem to like turn the corner in the last couple of weeks. Like, are you confident maybe, like, you know, of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, you know, Nicolas Pepe, Bukayo Saka? Do you think they're going to turn up tomorrow? And who do you think is going to be kind of like your most important player in tomorrow's game?
Personally, I'm not surprised that the bookies and everything do us as underdogs. Nearly every single time we play a big side, we're known as the underdogs, which gets annoying. But once it's in, like, the FA Cup, I love it because it puts no pressure on our team. It always keeps the pressure on the other team. They expect us to get smacked, and I love it when we prove the pundits wrong. But they'll always say it's the other team's fault. Not my problem. I think Lacazette is a big game player. I think he will start, and he's always the one to get the goal in the big games. I know Aubameyang scored twice against City, but you look at his record before that, it wasn't the best. Our front three just have to score goals, and our defence has to try and keep him out. And I personally don't think Saka will start.
So you think Saka will be dropped for the big game? Do you think Arteta won't trust him?
It's not that he'll be dropped. I think he'll be on the bench and about 65, 70 minutes in, brought in to do a job. I just think when we'll be playing probably the back five Our middle two is sorted, and then the front three will be Aubameyang, Lacazette, Pepe. So, and I don't think he gets in left wing back.
Yeah, I think Kieran Tierney, now to be fair, has done a fantastic job since he's came back from injury. So I don't think you're probably right. If you go to back five tomorrow, there's probably no room for Saka, especially the fact Nicolas Pepe seems to turn the corner as well. Kind of looking at the final as well. Obviously, like it's a London derby. Now look, we look back to kind of the 2017 final. Arsenal did have quite a lot of injuries and suspensions at that time. Now, I remember watching the game with William in Mulcahy's in Clonmel. For any of our viewers that don't watch it, it's a pub, and we and him weren't confident Arsenal would get the result. I remember the day they had Per Mertesacker and Rob Holding centre back, and I remember Chelsea had Diego Costa up front, and everyone was fancying Chelsea to win 3-4-0. Like, do you think, William, maybe that the omen is with you now? The fact that you've done them in the FA Cup final before. Now, look, I know in the Europa League it was a different situation, but do you think maybe the luck of the FA Cup and the fact you've won the most FA Cups, do you think that maybe spring in your advantage tomorrow?
I think that it does have an advantage. Now, don't get me wrong, I know Europa League last year we got smacked in Baku 4-1, but you look at our record in European trophies, it's terrible. Our final record is terrible. But when we go to Wembley, something else just seems to show up. Like, except for we lost the League Cup final to Man City. Other than that, and the League Cup final to Birmingham, I can't remember. I know, but that's years ago. I can't remember many times we actually go to Wembley and lose. It feels special in that ground that whenever we go, we seem to show up. And hopefully we'll do it again tomorrow.
Kind of just on the point of the managers of both sides, like Mikel Arteta and Frank Lampard, both very young managers in their own right, and it's their debut seasons in the top flight. Like, Sean, I'm going to come to you first with regards to this. Like, how do you feel maybe tactically, maybe Lampard will approach this game tomorrow? Do you think maybe he'll have that kind of conservative approach for like maybe the first 30, 40 minutes, or do you think maybe Lampard will go all out and kind of play the expansive football that they've been playing all season?
I feel he's going to stick with his back three tomorrow that he's played in the last 3 games. And I also feel he won't bring Kante right back in. I think he'll stick with Jorginho, Kovacic in midfield and try and control the ball. Try and stay on top of Arsenal. I feel that's what he's going to do. And not be changing back to like a 4-3-3 to like benefit Kante, stick him right back in. I think he'll feel like he'll just try and stay on top and like cut out, because Chelsea start good this season. It's the trend under Lampard. Like the first like 20-25 minutes, they always seem to get on top, have a lot of possession and stuff. So I think he's going to try and stick with that and see how they deal with Arsenal in the first few minutes with like an attacking approach. I don't think it's going to be too conservative. I know it's a cup final and stuff, but I just think he'll try and stay on top and have a lot of possession.
And Jack, like, how do you feel about Frank Lampard? Do you think maybe, he maybe will he stick Kante in, or do you think he might kind of stick to the same lineup? What's your opinion with regards and how he's going to approach the game?
No, I agree with Sean. I think he'll definitely stick with his back three. I don't think he's confident enough in our defence, in any of our defenders really, to play a 2 at the back. And I think what I've noticed with Lampard is if he really needs a result, he'll play 3 at the back. Like, we played it a few months ago and it served us well. I can't remember who it was against now.
Tottenham, was it?
It's Tottenham. I think it might have been Tottenham or Man City. I can't remember, but we got a result. He'd done it towards the end of the season. He'd done it against United, and then he played it against the other day, and it's worked for him. So I can't see him changing that. Don't think he'll throw Kante in. No, but you never know. Kante, even a 75% Kante, is a world star player. Do you know? So I wouldn't completely write it off. But I think once we have Giroud at the top, Pulisic, I don't know if Willian is injured. I'm not sure if he's back, if he's back or not. But yeah, I think the defence is going to be key in this game, because we both, Arsenal and Chelsea, we both were completely moody when it comes to defending. And I don't think any of us can really sit here and praise our defenders this year. So that's where the game is going to be won, if I'm being honest with you.
And William, kind of looking at like the Arsenal side of things. Obviously, Mikel Arteta has been kind of under the wing of the tactically the best manager in the whole of football in Pep Guardiola. Like, do you think maybe he's gonna have something like maybe up his sleeve tomorrow in terms of like a system or maybe some tactics to kind of shut Chelsea's attacking approach out?
Personally, I feel like he'll look at it the same way he has been at the Liverpool and Man City games. I know he said in his press conference Chelsea are different teams, so you have to approach it slightly different. But I think it'll be a very similar approach. I feel like we want you to have the ball so that we can hit your centre-backs on the counter-attack who, if we run at you 3-on-3 with Aubameyang against like Rudiger, then geez, it would be a massacre. I personally would rather ye have the majority of the ball and us go against ye than if we're trying to attack your back five, we don't seem to have that creative spark. So that's why we've got to try and hit ye on the counter-attack at the moment.
William, well, I was going to kind of cut in there. You have a creative spark that's on 350 grand a week and you can't get a look in.
He's not playing tomorrow.
No, Ozil definitely won't even get a sniff. I'd say he won't even get a medal tomorrow.
He won't even be on the bench. He will not even be on the bench. His head is just not in it.
Ozil hasn't been good for years.
Yeah.
Like, literally years he hasn't been good. I don't know what is up with him because he's got all the talent in the world, but he's just, I don't know. Is it a mental thing or does he care? I don't know. He just doesn't show up in games.
I'd say he definitely didn't care this season, especially after he got robbed at the very beginning of the season. He's just like, nah, screw this. I'm just going to enjoy my money, not putting myself in any risk on the pitch or off the pitch and just relax, because that's what it's felt like all season. And I know he's been terrible the season before. He hasn't looked himself ever since he got that one season where he got 19 assists. Drew up top. Ever since then, it's just been decline.
Is this his final year? Or has he got more?
He only signed a contract last season, was it?
He's got 1 year left, so 2021 is his last season.
Imagine what they could do if they could get him off the wage bill in terms of recruitment. It would be massive, wouldn't it?
I just wish we'd pay him off. I just wish we'd pay his contract off and get him gone. That's how much I feel like he's wasting his time. And I know that would cost money, but in the long run, it would save us. If we could use them savings to give Aubameyang more money and him stay.
I remember years ago at Chelsea, we're going back good 20 years ago, a guy called Winston Bogart, we signed him and he was on a massive amount of money at the time. I think it was like 40 grand a week, which at the time was massive. And I think he played one game and we tried to get rid of him and he never played for years and just sat there in the reserves earning all that money. He just refused to leave.
Jeez, no wonder it's why you nearly went bust before Roman signed up.
Oh, go away, man.
I had to get that in, Jack.
Blame it on Winston Bogart, yeah.
Yeah, Winston Bogart, you're an absolute fraud. Lads, kind of, with relation to tomorrow's game, like, I don't have a predicted 11 because obviously, look, I only kind of have a neutral's interest. I'm kind of sickened we're not in the final, but I'm going to come to kind of William first with your predicted 11. How do you think Arsenal are going to set up tomorrow?
Okay, so 5 at the back. Martinez in goal. He's been a revelation since he's come in. The best compliment I can give him is we haven't missed Leno. And since he's come in, he's had the highest save percentage in the Premier League on shots he's faced. So it's going to be great to see that next season. The battle for the two. Right wing back. Bellerin. I think you will go Bellerin. I'm tempted to also say Maitland-Niles, but I'm actually going to put him left wing back. So then the middle three would be Holding, Louise, and Tierney. Tierney is that left centre back as well, so he can just fit in there.
So you believe Kolasinac should be dropped?
I think he's kind of been dropped for most of the games recently. I think he did come in against Watford, maybe, but ever since the North London derby, no. And he's looked so shaky the whole time. Like, whenever he gets the ball, it's like, oh God, what do I do? Back. And he's one of the 3 centre-backs, so there's nearly nobody to pass it back to. it just never puts us on the right foot. So I think he has to get dropped. The midfield too is Xhaka and Boss, and then Aubameyang, Lacazette, Pepe.
So you think you'll go to kind of the 5-2-3 route then?
Yeah.
Sean, how do you think Chelsea are going to set up tomorrow?
Like I said, I could see him sticking with 3 at the back, 3-4-3. So I think Caballero is definitely starting to go. Kept up a goner, I think. Especially with how he done against Wolves. This is not even how good of a keeper Caballero is. He just has a lot more confidence right now than what Kepa has. Seen training videos and stuff yesterday. Kepa wasn't even diving. It just looks really bad. 3 at the back then, I can see Rudiger, Azpilicueta, and then Zuma will be there. Zuma will mop up between the other two. Then right wing back, Reece James walks in, I think. And on the left wing back, we'll have Marcos Alonso. He seems to kind of like the attacking outlet on the left-hand side, even though I hate watching him play really slow. But if there's going to be a crunch time to try and get a goal in the cup final, I think Alonso might be the one to get it.
I think he has the best. Just on the point of Marcos Alonso, Sean, I think he has the best left foot in the Premier League on live Messi.
Yeah, he'd be up there. Yeah, he'd
Not
be
when
right up there.
Not when he's putting it in for a tackle, he don't.
Yeah. No, it just pains me to watch him play, but he can pop up with that clutch goal. Then I feel like Jack said, it's 50-50 whether Kanté goes in, because like he's so good that you don't know whether he won't start. I know he's been out for a few games, but like he's easily our best player, so he might walk into that team. But I think Lampard might stick with Kovacic and Jorginho in the centre, try and keep the ball, try and hold possession of the ball. Then I think Pulisic will be on the left wing, and I think he's going to stick Mount on right wing for his pressing, to keep closing down the Arsenal back three and stuff, and he'll drop back in. He won't be an out-and-out winger, but he'll be kind of pulling into the field as well, and then Ollie will start up front, obviously against the old club. Could be his last game, like Jack said. I think there's talk of him going off to Inter Milan in the summer. He signed a 1-year deal this year, an extension, but I think that's more to protect his value rather than him staying at Chelsea. But yeah, I think Ollie will start up front, might pop up with a goal or two, hopefully.
Jack, how do you think Chelsea are going to stop tomorrow? Do you have any kind of different opinions to Sean?
No, I think Caballero will definitely start, and I think we'll probably go with the same back three. The only change I could see him possibly go for, which is unlikely, but is Tomori. He's back, and I know he kind of likes Tomori. I think the centre two would be the same, Kovacic and Jorginho. Alonso, if we're playing 3 at the back, Alonso has to start at wing back. He's by far our best wing back. Reece James definitely. Giroud up front, and then I would have said Willian. Do you know what? If Williams was fit, which I don't think he is, I think his tactics would have changed, because he would have had to accommodate Mount in there as well, because there's no way Mount didn't start in that game. And then obviously we need Pulisic. If Pulisic doesn't start, then forget about it. We might as well get back on the bus and go home. Pulisic, he's a different level of player now, and I think he'll. Imagine what he'll do to Luiz now. If Luiz is having one of his classic Luiz moments now, where his head goes, he'll just absolutely make bits of him. So I'm hoping that would be the case.
Yeah, and I think I'd say both sides, the Arsenal side and the Chelsea side, you're both probably spot on with your starting lineup predictions. I'd love to see if Willian's here. I'd like to see him play tomorrow. He seems to be a big game player for Chelsea. He always seems to kind of chip in with a free kick or an absolute belter of a goal every now and again. When it matters. I think if he does leave, which there's rumours that he is, whoever gets him is going to I know he's 31, 32, but he's still a very good player.
He's 31, I think, and the problem is obviously Chelsea's policy is we don't offer more than 12-month contracts for anyone over 30. Now, we did make an exception for Giroud when he came in and gave him an 18-month contract, but generally, I think we're offering him a year with an extension of a further year. But his age, this is his last big contract, and he wants a 3-year contract. So whether they'll cave in or not, I don't know. I think Lampard would want him to stay. I think it's possible that he might get what he wants, but I'm not 100% sure. But if he goes, look, I don't mind. I think we've brought in enough quality there that, if he goes, he goes. It's not like we're leaving ourselves at kind of less position than if he were to stay.
You can maybe even see Reece James maybe go to right wing at some stage. I think that might happen.
No, definitely not. No,
Do you not think so?
I don't think so. I think he's perfect for the wing back role. He's up and down the lines. He's brilliant. He's quick. He's not a bad defender, but his crossing is second to none.
That's why, like I suggested, like you kind of look at him, and you kind of look at Trent Alexander-Arnold, and they're both kind of in the same mold. So that's why I was kind of looking at both of them in that respect.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Lads, I'm just going to come to you with combined 11s. Now, actually, I'm going to go first with my combined 11 for both teams. I'll be honest, I didn't have to give it too much thought, in my opinion. Now, I might be wrong. Like, you might have different opinions as to who do you think should slot into your combined 11s between both teams, but I'm going to go with mine here. Now, if he was fit, Bernd Leno would be in there straight away. Fantastic goalkeeper. Before he got injured, in my opinion, it was a toss-up between him and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as for Player of the Year for Arsenal. William, would you agree with that in terms of Bernd Leno?
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, he's up for our Player of the Season award for the basis that he had an unbelievable season. He was doing brilliantly. Saved us many a time. Yeah.
Yeah. And, look, lads, my goalkeeper, I went with Willy Caballero. I think, Caballero is such an underrated goalkeeper. He was underappreciated at Manchester City. He arguably, he single-handedly won the League Cup against Liverpool back in, I think it was 2018 or 2017. It was 2018, so I was at the 2017 final. He was a fantastic goalkeeper. Then obviously, right back, I went to Reece James. Again, he's kind of came in from his loan spell, and he's hit the ground running with Chelsea this season. And, he's a very good young prospect. And, Hector Bellerin, I was going to put Hector Bellerin in, but I kind of had to look at who's been more consistent this season. And, in that respect, I went to Reece James. At centre-back, I've gone controversial here. I've went to he's not a natural centre-back, but he played there under Antonio Conte. So I went to Cesar Azpilicueta at centre-back, along with Antonio Rudiger. Rudiger, anytime I've watched him play, he's actually been quite solid. Now, I know sometimes he does have his mistakes, but on his day when he's on his game, Rudiger is a fantastic defender. So I went to Rudiger at centre back. At left back, I went Kieran Tierney, Arsenal. He's a fantastic left back. In my opinion, he's up there in the top 5 left backs in the league. And the fact he's come from Scotland, from Celtic to Arsenal, and I know he's been halted by injuries this season, but to come in and do what he's done, I think he's been very good. And I think next season, hopefully Arsenal get Europa League. Even though they're not in my prediction to win the game, but if Arsenal could get Europa League and Kieran Tierney can play more games, I think he can get more exposure and more experience under his belt, and he can develop as a left back. In midfield, I've gone with a midfield 3, so I've gone with a 4-2-3-1. My 2 holding midfielders are N'Golo Kante and Mateo Kovacic. With Kovacic, I think this season has been a proper breakout season for Kovacic. Last season, look, he didn't hit the ground running, if we can be honest. There's question marks over his Chelsea future, but I think this year he's been absolutely fantastic. And look, he's kind of proved a few doubters wrong, including myself. I didn't rate him last year. I really didn't. But this year,
he's been our best player this year.
Yeah, I'd agree. Mm-hmm. He's been absolutely fantastic for Chelsea this season. I think he's been great, and I think he's a justified inclusion in this midfield. N'Golo Kante, look, as Jack kind of alluded to, a 75% fit N'Golo Kante is better than most holding midfielders in the league. So I think that inclusion though speaks for itself. I went with, at number 10, I went with Mason Mount. Mason Mount, look, me and Jack kind of argue of who's kind of the best young English player, and I say Greenwood, he says Mount. But look, to be fair, Mason Mount is a fantastic player. Looking at him at Derby last season in the Championship, he was an absolute revelation. And then looking at him this year in the Premier League, to kind of come in and play at a top 6 club and play the way he's played with the confidence and the flair that he has, I think he's been absolutely fantastic. And Jack's going to love the fact I'm saying this, because even though I always kind of big Mason Greenwood up, but Mount, I can't fault Mason Mount. He's been a fantastic player, and look, he's definitely, in my opinion, a future Chelsea captain, and maybe maybe a permanent fixture in England side. Now, look, Phil Foden is also waiting in the wings for that kind of England number 10 spot, but I think they have a very kind of good future in terms of players they have in that position. And the front three, on the left hand side, I've went to Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Again, Arsenal's standout player this season in terms of goal scoring. He's been absolutely fantastic, and Arsenal do very well to kind of nail him down to a new contract. He's been, from an attacking sense, he's been a one-man team this year. He scored so many vital goals, and look, he narrowly missed out on the golden boot. Like, I know Jamie Vardy was good this year, but Aubameyang, without his goals, I know Arsenal finished was 8th this season. Without Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, God only knows where they'd be in the league. Maybe 12th or 13th, but he's an absolutely fantastic player, and I think we can all agree he is world class. In my opinion, he's world class.
Yeah.
Up front, I've went to Olivier Giroud. Again, former Arsenal player, but Olivier Giroud, lads, I'll be honest, I've given him some slagging over the years. I've called him average. I said he's not a fantastic striker, and he never should have replaced RVP. But look at Arsenal. His record at Arsenal was absolutely fantastic. Off the bench, he scored so many goals, and he scored in a few games against United as well. And I admire kind of the way he plays, how he brings players into play. He holds up the ball, and that kind of famous front post Olivier Giroud run where he gets his head on it, or he does that kind of outside the full finish. I love his movement in the box, and I think he's kind of what you call kind of a sharpshooter. Do you know what I mean? He's a fantastic striker, and I think look, whether he gets to move to Inter Milan, and hopefully try to kind of experience the new league in Serie A. Fair play to him. He's entitled to do so, but I'd like to see Chelsea maybe keep him on for another year, and he's a good kind of player to have in the Premier League. I like to see good strikers in the league as much as it kind of might affect Man United, but he's a fantastic player. On the right side, I've went to Christian Pulisic. Again, lads, since lockdown, he's been absolutely fantastic. Like, he's so direct. He can beat a player. He can run in behind. He has skill on the ball. Now, the only kind of thing I thought I'd have about Pulisic is that he's not the most physical of players, and sometimes he can lose the physical battle. But other than that, he's been an absolute revelation in the last 2-3 months, and look, he's been good. And I think next season, a full season under his belt without injury, with Ziyech and Werner and potentially Kai Havertz is basically kind of nailed on to come. Chelsea are going to be a massive threat in attacking sense next year. Now, obviously, look, there's still question marks over their defence, but look, I think Chelsea, from an attacking sense, and Pulisic, absolutely fantastic. So look, that's my combined 11. I don't know if you mightn't agree with some inclusions in there, but from an outsider's point of view, that's the way I went with the combined 11. Sean, I'm going to come to you first with your combined 11. Do you have anything different I have?
Midfield and attack is pretty much the same. Maybe one or two small changes to the back line. So I was going to go to 4-3-3 with a goalkeeper. Like you were saying, if Leno kind of wasn't there, Leno I think is easily between the four keepers between the two clubs, easily the best goalkeeper there. He'd walk into my 11. The last while though, Martinez for Arsenal has been fantastic. I'd have Martinez as my keeper. I think he's way too good to be a second choice keeper. Hopefully, see next season if he's going to be. It's like Dean Henderson with United, he's too good to be a second choice keeper as well, because Leno will be first choice. But Martinez there. I wonder if he'll stay at Arsenal or not.
Well, I think, do you know what? I think Sheffield United, if there's talks that if Henderson's getting a 5-year contract, he's going staying at United.
Yeah.
I think Sheffield United, the fact that they need a replacement for Dean Henderson, Emi Martinez, if he's not getting the number 1 spot, I think that'd be a good kind of loan spell for him. If he can go out and prove himself, he can come in then and challenge Leno. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, he'd be great. He's a great goalkeeper. Actually, I didn't even know about him when he was on the bench for Arsenal. I thought he was just like Caballero, just a keeper just to fill in the spot, and if there's any injuries, just to fill in. But he's been fantastic. So I'd have Martinez in goal, forward to back. So at the right, I'd have Reece James, similar to you. Left, I'd have Kieran Tierney. I love Tierney. I think outside of Robertson, there's not many in the Premier League better than Tierney left back. And like I said, it's great. I would have put Aspie there, but it's great to have a left footer around left who'll be able to attack as well as defend. And then where I'll differ is in the centre. I'd have Kurt Zouma. I think he's the best centre back between the two clubs. Not perfect, but he's easily the best between the two clubs, I think. And I love Fekir Tomori. I'd have Tomori and Zouma in centre as the two centre backs there. Then midfield three, I would have Kante there along with Kovacic, and I'd have Mason Mount like you did in my midfield. And then exactly identical to yours, then I would have Christian Pulisic out on the right, Aubameyang on the left, and I'd have Oli Giroud up front. Like yourself, I've given Oli Giroud like a lot of stick over the years. I'm a Chelsea fan. Even when he came to us, it just sometimes he can be frustrating. I find what he does a lot is if he loses the ball or if he misses the shot, or he turns around with his hands in his head, not watching play, kind of play goes wrong around him. But it wasn't until I went to Chelsea and Everton just before the lockdown there. I was over at that game and he was playing, and I got to see him from a live standpoint, like what he can do off the ball and everything, and the amount of work he does and what he does. I only really fully appreciate it when I see it live. It's absolutely unreal what he can do and what he does to bring other players into the game. It was just when I seen him live, I realised what he does then and what he brings to a team. So he'd walk into my front position.
Jack, do you have any kind of different choices in your combined 11 between myself and Sean?
No, to be honest with you, mine would be pretty much exactly the same as yours. The only difference is, controversially, for this particular game, I'd make this change, but for any other game, I wouldn't. But for this game, I'd have Alonso in on left because he's just a big game player, and he scores goals in finals. Not in finals, but in these sort of types of kind of must-win games, he always seems to come up with the goods in terms of an assist or a goal. He's an unbelievable free kick taker as well, and there's going to be free kicks in this game. I think for that basis alone, I would probably keep him in, but I would put the Arsenal Martinez in goal as well. That'd be the only other change. But other than that, I'd keep it the same. It's a shame, really, though, because Lacazette deserves to be in there, but basing on form, the way that Giroud has been playing, you couldn't get rid of him.
No, look, I think absolutely, I can definitely attest that. Like Lacazette definitely is an honourable mention. The fact that like he does score goals, like important goals, but at the moment Giroud has been absolutely fantastic, and I'm not just saying that because he scored against United there 2 weeks ago, but he's a fantastic player. William, I'm interested to see your starting lineup because I know you have kind of a distinct loyalty to Arsenal, but I'd like to see kind of your starting 11 and kind of see if you went in terms of systems, have you went anything different, kind of the three midfields or the 4-3-3s or 4-2-3-1s that we went with.
Personally, because obviously Chelsea had been playing 5 at the back a lot and Arsenal had been playing 5 at the back, I did 5 at the back because both teams defensively are terrible. So they both need that security of an extra centre-back in there. So in goal, I had Martinez. I've been amazed with what he has done since lockdown, since Leno's injury, considering that the last game before that, excluding Europa League, which sometimes I didn't watch properly, the last game I can remember him in was a Carling Cup game against Reading, where we were 4-0 down by half time.
Oh, you won 7-3, didn't you?
He was in goal for that game. Yeah. He was in goal for that game. He changed since then. The confidence he has now is amazing. So right wing back, I have Chelsea's youngster Reece. I think Bellerin is slightly past it. He's just not consistent enough for me. Like, I like him in some games, then other games he's just like, he doesn't help. So I'd go for Reece. I'd go 2 Chelsea centre backs as well, in Zouma and Tomori, and then in the middle of the 3 I'd have David Luiz. So ironically, basically Chelsea's back 3 last year. Very similar. I'd have Kieran Tierney left wing back. Then in the 2 in the middle, I'd go N'Golo Kante and Ceballos. So I'd have Kante to break up the play and then Ceballos just to spin around the player and play in the ball to the front 3, which then would be Pulisic on the left. He has been absolutely amazing. Anytime I've watched him play, it's just been wow. It's hard to say, but it's been at times Eden Hazard-esque. And you don't want to put that pressure on him as a Chelsea player, and obviously after Hazard has left straight away. But you can see that he's got quality to become next level. I'd put Aubameyang through the middle, even though he never seems to play there. And then on the right, I'll stick with Pepe, even though I'm a bit of a fan of Willian as well. So, take your pick.
Yeah, so you've kind of went to something kind of completely different to the lads. So it's kind of good to see that, and myself, so it's kind of good to see that there was a bit of variety there in kind of your starting lineup. And I like to see that the pantomime villain of Chelsea and Arsenal and David Luiz to get a mention in your combined 11.
To be fair, in a back three, he always performs a lot better, and he has those days where he can absolutely tear the attackers to shreds. And there's times he can tear the attackers to shreds by fouling them and being terrible. So.
Yeah, I look at David Luiz. I think it was when did Chelsea win the league? Was it 2017 under Conte? Was it?
Yeah, the same year we beat them.
Yeah, so in 2017, David Luiz in the middle of a back three was unbelievable. And I remember at the time, when Chelsea sold David Luiz to PSG for 50 million, I was in fucking stitches. I couldn't believe Jose Mourinho got 50 million quid for David Luiz. But look, that season when he came back and he played in the middle of that back three, he done fantastic, and I think he kind of showed his qualities in terms of look on the ball, he has something to give, and he has less kind of defensive responsibility. The fact he has the other two boys, albeit whoever it is, kind of beside him to kind of mop up, and he kind of gets that freedom to kind of step out of the back three and kind of obviously spray passes left and right. But look, I think that's where his position is. I thought maybe David Luiz back in his first kind of tenure with Chelsea and kind of back around 2011, 2012, I thought he was going to make the kind of whole midfield right in front of the two centre-halves transition. I know in the Club World Cup he played there back in 2012 and Chelsea kind of experimented with that. And I thought maybe he could have a few of them qualities to kind of screen the back four and kind of play that role. But, I think in a two, you couldn't trust him. I think, in terms of defensive responsibility, I think, it's been quite. We've seen it down the years in a back two, in a two centre halves. He's been very suspect. I think that's the best word I could use.
Yeah.
So lads, just come to the final part of the podcast. I'm going to go score predictions. So William, I'm going to come to you first. How do you think tomorrow's game is going to go down? So you're going to make a head or are you going to make a heart decision?
Bit of both. Personally, I think we'll do it. For some reason, I want to say 2-0, but I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. So I'll say 3-1 with Giroud to score for Chelsea.
Jack, how do you think it's going to go down? What's your prediction?
Well, actually, I have no idea, if I'm being honest, but if I had to make some sort of prediction, I think it's going to be. I think 3-1 Chelsea. I think there's going to be goals in it, especially if David Luiz is playing. There's definitely going to be goals in it. So I'd say 3-1 Chelsea. Yeah. Giroud a brace, Pulisic banging one in right at the end.
Sean, what's your score prediction? How are you feeling? How do you think it's going to go down?
I'm feeling a 2-1 win to Chelsea. I'm feeling Mount is going to bag one, I think, and I think Ollie will bag one against the old club. So I feel Chelsea might be they'll get a second to be 2-0 up and feel comfortable, and I think some defender or midfielder, some defensive type of player for Arsenal might have given a goal, and there might be an edgy 15-20 minutes at the end, I think. Judging by how bad Chelsea are at the back, but I feel Chelsea will sneak a win. I think 2-1. Really edgy game though.
With my prediction now, obviously I said earlier, look, I'd like to see maybe Arsenal, get Kieran Tierney into kind of Europa League spot so he can kind of develop. But look, if I be honest, I don't see past Chelsea tomorrow. I think Chelsea get a win. I've got a similar prediction to Jack. I think it's going to be 3-1 Chelsea. Now what I think Chelsea will go 3 up. I think Olivier Giroud will get a goal tomorrow. You might see Mason Mount get on the score sheet as well. And if I had to kind of go something absolutely ridiculous, I'm going to go Rudiger to score from a set piece. You can see what odds we get for that in Paddy Power. And I think Arsenal will get kind of a goal with kind of 15, 20 minutes to go to kind of put some pressure on Chelsea. But I think Chelsea will hold out and get a 3-1 win.
I think it'll be a conservative game for the first maybe 25, 30 minutes. But I think once the first goal goes in, I think it'll be a lot more open, to be honest.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say about tomorrow's game is if Arsenal score first, they'll do what they did against Manchester City.
Yeah.
And they'll just sit on the 18-yard line, pack the back 5 / kind of back 6. Xhaka will sit there and they'll just shut up shop.
And Aubameyang on the counter or something to be dangerous, yeah.
Yeah.
He'd be very dangerous on the counter, but yeah.
Personally, this may sound weird, but this is the one game, like, no matter who you're playing against, going into Wembley, I don't like going 1-0 up. I always feel whoever scores first loses. It's a really weird one, but it's one place where if I go 1-0 down, I'm like, okay, good, we can come back. I mean, it happened, we went 2-0 down against Hull. It's happened before in the past against other teams as well. But it's just one place, it's like, okay, we've got to come out and beat this. And there's only one other record I'm worried about as well. Olivier Giroud has never lost at Wembley.
Peace and never know that.
I know what you're saying about the goal as well. And I think if it's an early goal, it's almost the worst thing that can happen sometimes if you get a goal too early, because it changes the game completely then. You want teams to just ease into the game and see where the other team are not playing so well. But Chelsea have a tendency this season under Lampard is just to come out all guns blazing. Like the first half an hour every game, we're phenomenal going forward. But then we do tend to lose steam in the second half. So we just need to make sure we don't get complacent then and let Arsenal back. Because with the pace that Arsenal have coming at our defenders who are not the best in the world centrally, Rudiger isn't the greatest in that regard. I think Aubameyang could slice us to pieces if we're not careful. So
yeah, absolutely. I think anyway. Look, it's going to be a good final tomorrow. I think I think we will see goals. Now, look, hopefully that's not the curse of the commentator, and we get a drab 0-0 and we go to penalties. But I think it'd be a good game tomorrow. These in the last kind of 2 years, like Arsenal and Chelsea games have been entertaining, regardless of of form. We have seen goals, and it will be a good game of football. I think the big winner tomorrow is going to be the fans, because there's nothing like an FA Cup final. Like I know I went to the 2018 final and the spectacle of it. Now look, I know the fans aren't going to be there tomorrow, but it's always a good spectacle. And so Jack will remind you that in the 2018 final, after I travelled over, I had a load of screenshots in my head on Phil Jones for his foul at Eden Hazard. If anyone wants to check out that picture, it's in one of my old cover photos on Facebook. Lads, thanks very much for coming on tonight. It was a very good chat about the FA Cup final, and I hope to see all of you again on the podcast. Thanks, Sean, for coming on tonight. It was your first show, and it was great to have you on. And look, we might do a review next week of the FA Cup final, and we'll go through the game regardless of kind of what happens. And next week on that review, Chrissy Gearin will join us too. So he's a very controversial figure when it comes to his podcasts. He's very unfiltered, so we'll have him on. And tonight as well, look, we are recording Keane on United. So I'm joined by Callum McFadden from Football CFB and Adam Stout from the United Stand. So we will be reviewing Manchester United's roller coaster of season, and there's a lot of interesting talking points, and we will be talking about kind of transfer speculation and stuff like that. So that will be released tomorrow night, right after the FA Cup final, but this will be up tonight, and we will have a lot of interesting talking points next week as well, going into the next run of fixtures, including the return of the Champions League and the Europa League. So we've plenty of content to cover within the next kind of couple of weeks with the festival of football that we do have upcoming. Lads, look, thanks very much for coming on tonight. Look, I hope you have a good evening. Enjoy the game tomorrow, lads.
You too. Thanks a million, Keane, for your time. Appreciate it.
See you later, lads.
Have a good
evening.
See ya.
See you, Keane.
Cheers. See ya.
Yeah.